I've got a big box. Would you care to know what's in it? It's embroidery. It's like 7 years of embroidery. Not really 7 years, because in the last several years, the only things that I've embroidered are big pieces, and those are mostly hanging up on the walls in here. They're not really in the box. So I don't know, this is probably like 5 years of embroidery. Either way, it's a lot. Though embroidery is a very slow craft, you can still do a lot of it when you're doing a lot of it. I dedicated a lot of time to it. So what I've ended up with is a massive giant box full of embroidery pieces that they just live in a box. I'm not gonna hang them up. Most of them are pretty small. I would need an entire huge gallery wall, and I don't really want to. I didn't make them so that I could display them. I made them because I wanted to make them. But as I have talked about in the past, particularly on my second channel, I don't want to sell them because I don't enjoy the process of selling physical items. However, it's also sad that they just sit here in this box. So today, we're gonna open up the box, actually go through all of these pieces, which I probably haven't done since we first moved to LA, so like over 3 years ago now. And then we are going to look into getting rid of some of them. Stay tuned till the end if you wanna, I don't know, possibly buy one. We'll get into that later. I'm telling myself right now, we do not have time to look at and talk about every single one of these pieces on camera. Right now, I don't know how many there are. Part of this process will be counting them, but I guarantee that there's at least a couple hundred. Shall we go fishing? Well, here's a good one to start with, because it was my very first embroidery piece ever. It is also probably the only kit or pattern in this entire box. There might be one other, which is a whole other thing. We'll see if I find it. But yeah, this was my very first embroidery piece. I still love it. It's absolutely gorgeous. Ooh, I did so many tiny satin stitches on here. You can tell I didn't really know any stitches yet. Oh yeah, it's even got my test stitches on the corner here. This would have been in 2017, I'm almost entirely sure. Yes, because in 2016, I went to England, and that's where I first thought, hey, you should take up embroidery, because I was looking at the gowns, Queen Elizabeth's gowns that were all on display that year in the castles and the museums and everything. And there was so much, you know, gorgeous embroidery. Obviously, England has a long history with hand embroidery. And I remember looking at all of it and being like, I bet I could do that. I had done cross stitch one time when I was a kid, or like, I think more than one time, but like it was a thing we tried when we were kids. We tried a lot of stuff and I didn't like it. I was never super into cross stitch. I think just the one simple stitch wasn't that exciting to me, and I didn't really love the look of cross stitch. It's just not personally a favorite of mine. I really like texture in embroidery. Didn't know that back then, but now I know. And it makes sense. But yeah, after going to England, I got straight on a cruise contract, so I couldn't really do anything about it for a while. But when I got off that cruise contract, I went and got myself a kit. Spent months sewing this. I was doing it very slowly, but by the time I finished this piece, I was like fully in love with embroidery. And from there on out, I just started futzing around, winging it, doing my own stuff. This was the beginning. Next, the rest of these will not be in creation order, y'all. Not even a little. They're very dumped in here. Oh, here's a fun little stack. This was a whole collection I decided to do of Shakespearean insults. At this point, I know there's one of these in my studio, but that makes 8 total. I know I did way more of these, like a lot, and I think I have actually either sold a few or given some away over the years. I was super into the double-sided hoops that have fabric on both sides, stitching on both sides. So it's got the insult on the front and then like the exact play and the scene that it's from on the back. Poisonous bunch-backed toad. And this was sort of at the beginning of starting my Instagram account, Get Thee to the Stitchery, which is, of course, a Shakespeare pun. I'm not that big of a Shakespeare nerd, but it was just like too good to pass up. Oh, these were fun. This was me getting super creative at one point. I wanted to try stitching on tulle, and I thought, let's do fingerprints for some reason. That'll be fun. I really like the look of them. They're very cool. They're not my fingerprints. I literally just looked up fingerprints on Google Images and then like took a few drawings of them, but they are all unique, each one of these 5. This was my exploration in needle lace. I made these dragonfly wings actually like on wire so you can bend them. Again, stitching on tulle. I was very into that for a brief amount of time. And then I did a second one, I think, for a class that I was teaching, and it doesn't look as good because it's very difficult to make things look good when you're trying to teach. It's a very annoying conundrum. To really make my embroidery look good, I need to like fully focus on it. But when you're teaching a class, there's so many other things to focus on, like lighting and camera angle, and are you explaining it well? So ultimately, the thing you're making suffers for it, which is why I don't like teaching classes or doing tutorials. Bit of a random little set here that isn't really a set because they're done in completely different styles. It's just one is for tea and one is for coffee. When I lived in Scotland for a little while, that was what the woman I lived with would always say. She'd come wandering in, middle of the day, fancy a cuppa? Coffee as an emotion is just like, I don't know, a feeling I was having one day. I stand by it. Oh, here's my Winnie the Pooh series. This was one of those things that like, it just stuck in my head one day that like, you should do a series of the Winnie the Pooh characters, but just their like lower halves. I don't know why, but I did. But that's the joy of, you know, doing your own stuff, is you can just do whatever the crap you want and you don't always need an explanation for it. Oh yeah, this was kind of a series that I did that I didn't really mean for it to be a series, but it just turned into it. It started with this piece, and this was when I was starting to get into stitch types more and like how you can use them. So I think this began with me doing the chain stitch fill for the moon and then this grid over here, the lattice work on the sun. I just kind of wanted to explore different stitch types, which is again what I did on the raindrop one that kind of goes in this series, you could say. It's just a bunch of different stitch types, which, you know, considering I've now put out samplers and tutorials for like hundreds of stitch types, you can see that was my obsession, is variety of stitch and like the different looks you can get from all of them and the different textures you can get from all of them. That's what's fascinating to me with embroidery, and I think that's why cross stitch never like lit a fire under me. But yeah, I ended up doing a few other ones kind of in this series, and I guess the thing that makes them a series is that I, for some reason, stitched lyrics from Broadway songs onto all of them. Again, why? I don't know. Oh, but speaking of that, here's all the practice ones I did. Oh, that's a stack. Yeah, this whole thing, I've never even like finished the edges of it because why? But I had to actually film myself stitching them for the video tutorials and stuff. But I left them all in. I have so many of these plastic white hoops. I actually kind of stole these. Not really. They were in the trash. You can't steal it if it's trash. But while I was working on a cruise ship, the second time I had started embroidery, and a lot of the embroidery I did in here is from when I was on the cruise ship for 6 months. I would stitch backstage and in the cabin, basically all the time. Stitching became my coping mechanism at that time. But at one point, I looked in the trash backstage, or like next to the trash, there were these 2 huge boxes of embroidery kits, because one of the many like random activities you can do on a cruise ship is like they have crafting hour several days, and one of the crafting activities is this little embroidery thing you can do. And for some reason, I guess it had aged out, they decided they weren't doing it anymore, so they literally just threw away the 2 whole boxes of supplies. And I was like, those are mine now. Dug through it. I took out all the stuff I didn't want, but I kept all of the hoops and all of the needles, and it was something like 250 hoops. Matt's parents came to visit us on the cruise ship and brought a spare suitcase, and I dumped 250 plastic hoops into it and sent it home with them. I am still working through them to this day. I still have a bunch of them left. This one was a video I made way back in the day, exploring different fill stitches, all the same flower but done with 6 different stitch types. And how does that change how they look? Oh, this was a whole series that I did back when I actually was trying to sell embroidery. This was a friend of mine that I worked with on the cruise ships who's a really good artist. I had her design 3 different patterns for me that were all like spring themed. And then I stitched up a bunch of them, and yeah, they didn't sell. Like, of course they didn't sell. They would have sold if I had like tried to promote and market and everything, but I was already losing interest in that. But she did beautiful work and I love her designs. Oh, and then there's a good old She Walks in Beauty. I really like that poem. Memorized the whole thing at one point. Oh, speaking of other artists, this is a beautiful piece by an artist I love. I don't know her personally. Her Instagram, I'll put it up, but it's designed by Shay, I believe. She just does such beautiful, beautiful artwork, and she put this out one time as like a free coloring page for people, and I was like, well, I color with needle and thread, so I did so. It was fun. I really like it. Oh, these pieces go back way to the beginning. These were some of my first pieces before I even got on the second cruise contract. So I had done my first embroidery piece. I think I had done a few more since then. I had kind of explored a bit, but before getting on our next cruise contract, we had to go to the studios in Florida to do like rehearsal and everything. And someone there, actually, I don't even think it was someone who was there. I think it was someone from a past cruise contract. Anyway, I just know that I was at the studios when I stitched like 4 different bell designs because somebody actually asked me for one. They had a friend who was going to be playing Belle on Disney Cruise Lines and they wanted to send her a present as a congrats. And so she was like, can you stitch me a Belle design? And I was like, I'll stitch you 4 and you can choose which one you like. So these are the rejects. She did not choose these. Ooh, these were early on. I still love these pieces. I think I didn't really have design ideas at first. I didn't really know what to stitch. I just knew that I wanted to stitch. This is such a good thing to stitch. It was just a bunch of straight stitches, but it looks so cool. Embroidery can be incredibly simple and still look really cool. Oh, this was sort of the same thing, but for my sister when she was having her first child, she wanted a, what is this? Little Prince. A Little Prince themed embroidery for his nursery. And again, I had time on my hands apparently. I was like, let me stitch you like 5 or 6 different things and you can choose your favorites. So again, this was a reject only because there were better ones. Oh yeah, there's my random superhero thing. You would think from this collection that I'm like a fan of superheroes. I'm really not. I just looked at the logos and I was like, oh, that would be a good thing to explore different stitches with. The shield logo is entirely done with French knots. That one took a while. Yeah, I don't know, but like the logos, I just looked at them and I was like, it's blocky stuff. There's no shading, which is a lot of what I looked for in like, what should I stitch? I've never been very good at coming up with my own designs. I'm not a good drawing artist. Not everyone is, but that doesn't mean you're not an artist. So a lot of my embroidery, or most of my embroidery, is other people's artwork that I've recreated in thread. And I would usually look for stuff that had a very blocky design because that's very easy to do with different stitches rather than something that has like color gradients where you're gonna have to get more into thread painting, which is something I've never been good at and don't really want to be good at. So yeah, logos were like, I could stitch that, why not? Here's my giant hoop that like annoys me because the fabric is not pulled tight enough, which is admittedly very hard to do in an oval to start with. It's always harder to tighten your fabric properly in an oval, but also it's harder to do in a giant thing, and I couldn't tighten the hoop any further. So yeah, it's very loose, and that frustrates the crap out of me. It's a map, but you can barely see the embroidery because the fabric is so busy, so I don't really know what my plan was there? Oh yeah, the ballerina one. That was fun. I don't love it. I had an idea in my head and it got to like 70% of the idea. It wasn't the full, like, this is what I wanted it to look like. That's how it goes sometimes. Oh, there's one of the samplers. That was my intermediate stitches sampler, which for some reason I framed. Why did I frame that? I don't know. Oh, this was an exploration of thread weight. The flowers start with all 6 strands and go down to 1 strand as like a visual reference for how different stitches look with different weights of embroidery floss. Oh, we got some big ones. Yet another Beauty and the Beast. I did a lot of Beauty and the Beast back at the beginning. Oh, and then this was the very first version of what turned into my laidwork sampler. I like it, it's pretty. Oh, we still have a few of these. Several of my Mary Poppins ones sold back in the day, I think, but I still have 4 left, I guess. Yeah, this was a whole era I went through. Again, because I'm not good at making the original piece of artwork myself when it comes to illustration, I would look for people's illustrations that could be recreated in thread. And any form of just like pencil or pen line illustration like this was really fun to do because it was actually quite a challenge. There are a lot of small lines in this that transferring them onto the fabric and then getting all of them stitched out was kind of a pain in the butt. I enjoyed doing these. I remember doing these on planes a lot. Oh yeah, which means I must have been sewing all of these while I was working for a traveling dance competition. Around that same time, I also did 3 Amelia Bedelia illustrations, which I loved so much, and somebody did buy the whole series of them. This was like the time when I was trying to actually sell the pieces on Etsy, and that only lasted for like 4 months. So here is like really my first stitch exploration. There's a book called just A to Z of embroidery stitches, I think, and I grabbed that at a store and then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stitch my way all the way through this book, no skipping any of the stitches, which was kind of difficult because some of them were meant to be done with ribbon. They were embroidery, silk ribbon embroidery styles. And I didn't have silk ribbon, so you can see that I tried to do some of them with regular ribbon, which does not really work. I did eventually get some silk ribbon by the end. This was a very, very good exploration. If you like hardcore want to get into hand embroidery, doing something like this where you just go through hundreds of different types of stitches is such good practice. This one is a bit interesting. I have 4 of these. This was supposed to be a pattern that I released. It's done in a crewel work style. These are done with crewel wool. 3 of them are done on the proper like linen twill that you're supposed to do them on. This was a couple years ago now, but some of you who have been around for a while might remember this. I thought I was going to be doing this 2-week tour of England thing that was like a stitch along, like we tour England and Scotland and we stitch a piece together, and I was supposed to create an embroidery piece or a crewel piece that we would do on the trip. And this was it. I have 4 of them because I had to test it so many times and I had to like fully make the pattern and everything. And then that whole thing got canceled because there was not enough interest, which honestly, I was so relieved about. Y'all, I don't think I would have done well on that trip. But at this point, now I just have 4 little tea things that I don't need for anything anymore. Oh well. Oh, and there's another series. This is my subway map series. The thing is, 1, I used a really bad fabric, so again, the fabric is loose in the frames, and I can't really do anything about that at this point, but it drives me nuts. Also though, I can't remember which subway these are. I'm sure I have that information somewhere. I'm pretty dang sure this is New York because it's the biggest one. But yeah, I don't remember. I think one was Paris, one might be Chicago. I don't even remember. One has to be London. These were weirdly hard to stitch back then. And I think this is a good reminder to me of how far I have come in terms of pattern transfer. Like I look at this and I'm like, why was this so hard to transfer onto this fabric? Look at the crap that I've transferred onto fabric now, like this giant Disney piece that I'm doing right now. But I've learned so much since these. That's why this was hard. I just didn't know stuff yet. Oh Lord, all right, we're getting into like all the random stuff. There's my Maisel one. I do actually still have a pattern out for this one, although I'm not allowed to call it Marvelous Mrs. Maisel or Etsy makes me take it down. So they're just called like 1950s fashion plates. It's not like they're ever gonna sell an embroidery pattern. And another illustration. This was one, okay, the original Peter Pan book that I have has stunning illustrations in it. I don't even think they're illustrations. I think they're the, what is it called? When they do like an etching and then a print kind of thing. So they're very, very detailed and very full of little lines. And I was always like, ooh, I really want to stitch one of those. So this was a little more recent than my other illustrations because honestly, this was so difficult to transfer on here and to get it to look right. Oh yeah, it was tough to do. Very random exploration. I just wanted to see if I could stitch on cardboard. You can. Of course you can. Oh yeah. At one point, I had plans to stitch on so many point shoes, my old point shoes, my sister's old point shoes, and this was one I did as a test. I think this is actually my stepsister's point shoe. It was harder than I had anticipated. I think it really needs like a curved needle, and it's harder to do certain stitches, so the design that you choose to do on these is like complicated. But that was a cool exploration. These are all so random now. Oh my God, this was really my like, I'm just gonna do stuff stage. There's some in here that are like stitch explorations. Like this, I think it's called net stitch. I just wanted to see how to do it. This was a fun little collection I did. I've got a few of these and I think someone has another one. It was tulle on the front and then fabric on the back, and then I stuffed them with Ort, with all my like little leftover thread bits. A Lion King Broadway piece, because of course. That also, I remember that being quite difficult to stitch, which is hilarious because now I look at it and I'm like, that would have been so easy. Or nowadays this would be so easy to stitch. But I remember it being hard back then, which is like, I don't know, I've come a long way. Another stitch exploration, this one was of crow's foot, which is still a stitch that I really love. This one's a very special one to me, and this is something that I highly recommend doing if you're into embroidery, doing a stitched version of people's handwriting. So I have a piece of crewel work that my mom made for me, and she had written this message on the tissue paper that it was rolled up in, but the tissue paper was starting to get very torn up, and I also wanted to frame the piece and hang it up. So before I got rid of the tissue paper, because like I can't hold on to that forever, I transferred her message into stitching. So that's very special to me. This was some random idea I had about double layered stitching, which it is pretty cool. I think it could be cooler, but you've got a layer of stitching on the back and then the tulle with stitching on it on top, and it looks really neat. These were early pieces as well. The Robin Hood Disney movie, the animated one where Robin Hood is like a fox, was one of our favorite movies growing up. So a little ode to those. Woody lolly. Oh God. This is a sign that not all of my series ideas worked out. I wanted to do a mustache series where I would stitch iconic mustaches and then put a quote from the person on the back. Again, that sort of double-sided thing. And I started, because I'm real smart, with Charlie Chaplin. So the back says, "A day without laughter is a day wasted," and the front just looks like a Hitler mustache. I did not continue with this series. This was the one stitch that I couldn't do in these hoops. It was in the book, but it's so specific that I couldn't do it in the hoops because it's connecting. It's supposed to connect two pieces of fabric. And y'all, the name of this stitch is super unfortunate. I actually just saw a reel the other day of someone teaching this stitch, and of course the reel had gone viral because they used the name for it. I don't even want to say it. It needs a new name. This was my exploration of like, I think it's called cut work, where you stitch around the edges and then you cut out the fabric in between. Oh, you know what's funny? This is the only piece of mine that I've ever directly seen copied. I saw this exact same design on some random other Instagram page, like that they had done themselves, which is a very big thing that happens in the embroidery world, and people get quite up in arms about it. I did not care because I was like, this is just like a font that I downloaded. I don't own that. I don't own this quote. Anyone can do this, but it is a problem when it's people's actual original artwork. Like, I don't really own any of the artwork that I do here because it's not my original artwork. I'm just recreating it in thread. But there are embroidery artists who also design their own designs from scratch and then get them stolen by quite often large companies. Even like Michaels and stuff have been known to steal designs from small embroidery artists, and that's super unfortunate and needs to stop happening. Scar inspired. On the back it says, "Be prepared for the murkiest scam." Such a good line. Yeah, see, here we get into a lot of my like quotes from stuff. America is my country and Paris is my hometown. I consider that to be a quote from the movie Sabrina, but I'm pretty sure in the movie she's quoting someone else. Do the proceed. From Up, sad is like happy for deep people. I do not know what this quote is from. I just remember like seeing it in meme form or something. It's from some TV show or movie or something. And I remember first seeing it and being like, oh, I get that. I relate. But I must confess I did it all for myself is a Florence and the Machine lyric that very much connects with me. If women's life gives you on them suck. I think that was actually a quote from Good Mythical Morning. Oh, this was like a failed piece. I had a vision in my head of what it would look like to stitch over this kind of fabric. And yeah, it did not turn out in the end as it did in my head. It did not match my vision. Oh, and then these were like fun, use up your leftover thread kind of explorations. All of these were, and I never actually finished them. The point was just to sew on them randomly. But it was a bunch of ideas for like, how can you use up your longer pieces of ort? You can still stitch something with them. They're not an inch long, but what? This one is my favorite. I actually want to keep doing this. You put a thicker cord on top of your fabric, like macrame cord, which was also leftover pieces that I was using. And then you just pull out your ort and stitch over it with like a satin stitch. I don't know, I love the look of that and I would love to do a bigger piece with this, but it is pretty time consuming, which isn't a bad thing. Okay, y'all, I've backed myself into a corner here, but you know what's hilarious? There's still more in here. No more hoops. This is all the framed embroidery that I have. There's still all of this. This is all the artwork that either was practice for a sampler or it just wasn't good enough. A lot of it is very early artwork that just isn't very good, and so I was like, whatever, I'm not framing that. Some of it was pieces that I had other ideas for rather than putting them in a frame. I was like, oh, these would make a cute pillow or even like a small blanket. They'd go well into a quilt. We don't have time to go through all of these. I'm just gonna count them because I would love a final count of how many pieces of embroidery I currently have in my possession. So give me a second. I'll be right back with that. All right, y'all, we got a final count. So right here, just all of the framed pieces that were in the box, there's 140 pieces of embroidery. Over here, in the unframed bags, a lot of these are practice pieces, but still I counted each piece separately because, I don't know, they're separate. There's 103. And then I walked around the house and counted all of the other pieces that are here, whether it's they're on display. I counted my in-progress works. I think I've got like 3 of those right now. There's pieces all over the house, even embroidery on my clothing. I have the stack of sashiko in my studio. That's 36 pieces. So all the pieces of embroidery around the house is another 63. This brings us to a grand total of 306 pieces of embroidery in the house that I have done. That's a lot of embroidery. And of course, this is not taking into consideration all the pieces that I have sold or given away over the last 7 years, which like, it's not a ton because again, I wasn't actively trying to sell embroidery most of the time, but it's not an insignificant number. I have no way of calculating the number, but I would guess it's at least like 50 pieces. But yeah, I will just say for, you know, a nice general number, I have created over 300 pieces of embroidery. I can't decide if that sounds like a lot or not. It is a lot of pieces to just have lying around though, so I think it's definitely time to get rid of a few. What do you think? Yes? Shall we do that? We shall. Like I said at the beginning, I need to get rid of some of these. They can't just keep sitting in a box in my living room forever. And like I kind of said in the middle, did I say this? Now I can't remember. I think I kind of said it. I'm a little iffy on selling them, not just because I don't like selling things, but also because some of them are my design, some of them are other people's designs that I've redone in thread, some of them are just stitch explorations. There's a variety of stuff in here. So in order to get rid of it, I'm gonna solve all of the problems in one fell swoop. We are doing an auction for charity. I've listed a bunch of these on eBay with really low starting prices, most of them like $1, maybe a little bit higher for some of the bigger ones. And they are going to be up for auction for 1 week, starting right now when this video was posted. And I am throwing in the Bargello piece that I just finished recently. We're gonna auction this off as well. I did give it a higher starting price, just cause like, this is wool and silk floss, y'all, so. Anyway, my point is not to make money from any of this, it's just to move some of these pieces out of my home. So all of the proceeds from this are going to go to Save the Children. They're a really incredible charity working to protect kids in crisis around the world, and I have linked their site in the description if you'd like to read more about them. Because I want everything you're paying to go straight to Save the Children, I'm gonna cover all of the shipping costs myself, and that includes international. So wherever you are in the world, you can bid, you can buy, you get free shipping. All of the pieces are gonna be shipped as is. There will be a picture on the listing of the front of the hoop and the back of the hoop, and I've put the dimensions on there as well, but like, that's it. I'm not gonna do anything to any of them. I'll note in the description if there's anything that's like a little damaged about them. And like the Bargello piece is not framed, it's gonna come to you like this if you win it. There will be a few days of processing after the auction is over, aka me packing everything up, and then they'll just be all shipped in one batch. So I'm not at all gonna guarantee that you will receive something before Christmas if you purchase it. No guarantee, but I tried to do this early enough that you hopefully should receive it before Christmas in case you wanted to get one for somebody for a Christmas gift. No guarantees though. And finally, if you saw a piece during the video that you want, but you don't see it up for auction, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. Please don't tell me you want it in the comments here because I might miss that. Possibly I didn't list it because it's just not for sale. It's one of the ones that I'm keeping because it's personal to me, but also I just could not list everything because there's way too much right now. So just shoot me an offer, let me know that you want it, and if I'm willing to part with it, then I will put it onto Etsy for you so you can go purchase it over there, and the proceeds from that will still go to Save the Children with the rest of the charity, with the rest of the auction. You know what I'm saying. Oh, and I'm putting a time limit on this because this is time sensitive. Let's say if you are watching this video anytime past mid-November of 2024, it's too late, this is over. Maybe I'll do it again in the future, but like, that's it for now. I think that's everything. Links are in the description. I had a lot of fun revisiting these pieces, so thank you for joining me for a bit of show and tell, and may many of them leave my house very soon. Huzzah! I probably should have swept the floor before I started this, because there's a lot of puppy fur. Rather large, rather large. Oh lordy, ooh, ah. She is beauty, she is grace. Ah, fur clump. Yo, what was my plan here? I can't reach free space anymore. Get out of here! Ooh.